Thank you, the Most Sangha that is here today, for your offering of presence and practice. The sun is not quite arisen for me in my time here in New Mexico, but the sun will rise as we explore this text. Appropriately enough, because the text, the Dharma, is considered the sun, the skillful means. And the wisdom is the moon. And sometimes those are flipped, but that's what I stick to. Maybe that's one of the little things that I'm stubborn about. But here it says Dzogchen must be practiced. So my favorite thing to incorporate into Dzogchen is meditation, because they recommend 10-minute, 15-minute, and 20-minute sits. And then as you get comfortable, I think you can sit for longer, no problem. But what's happening in those 10-minute sits is very important. One can watch TikTok or YouTube for 10 minutes. It's not about the time or the fact that you're sitting. Uh, this comes post recognition of the nature of mind. And so ideally, you have a recognition, you have an option, which is awareness, other than being stuck in thought, other than being stuck in emotion. Okay, so it says here, maybe I should also mention that meditation, short sits, um, sure, mantra, but not as a main part of the group. Mantra you can do on the side, and I think it'll be a great complement. But generally speaking, these short, just pretty bare bones meditations without a bell or without any instructions to do anything. These are in contrast to like Guru Yoga or the more shamanic practices of Dzogchen Mahamudra, like Chud, um, as opposed to perhaps longer sits in a meditation box or in a cave, as opposed to cycles of practices and protectors and nundros and all kinds of sadhanas and keeping samayas. As opposed to all that, we're keeping it pretty simple with just familiarizing with the view via meditation and Dharma talks, inquiries. So I think those two, for the audience that we're in now, that we're all a part of, I think these fit very well actually. And different strokes for different folks, always. But this happens to be kind of what we're rolling with here. And so it says this Aro teaching focuses on meditation. It contains essential pith instructions on how to practice in order to attain realization. The Aro teaching is not a scholarly treatise. It is not a work of philosophy. It does not explicitly discuss the philosophical systems of Buddhism, such as the Abhidhamma, Prajaparamita, or Madhyamaka. Now, I know I read that already, but it's always nice to repeat, and I've already explained in one of the last sessions how within Dzogchen, in the non-analytical aspect, Abhidhamma, Prajaparamita, and Madhyamaka are present there. Abhidhamma as the eight consciousnesses that you're noticing, but lots of other stuff too, luminosity of mind and consciousness without surface, all kinds of things that go into. But then Prajaparamita is just the emptiness aspect of your mind. Madhyamaka is kind of the middle way, but also the freedom from concepts is there. So we can find all of these in Dzogchen quite easily. And that's just a summary. There's more if you want to elaborate. So these systems are of course very important. They are the very heart of what the Buddha taught. But in fact, this Aro teaching is the essence of them all. The Aro teachings are concerned with how to identify, practice, and actualize the true nature of mind, known as the view. By the way, the view is first in the Eightfold Path too, if you're paying attention to that. So it really ties in well to other aspects of Dharma, like the Four Noble Truths and the perfections and all this stuff. But with the right view at the forefront, you have right intention or kind of your thoughts, your motivation that comes from your view spontaneously and naturally. And then after that comes right speech, right action, right livelihood, and right effort, right meditative concentration, and right wisdom, or kind of a right mindfulness, depending on your interpretations. But notice how view precedes them all. So just by recognizing the nature of mind, you're beginning to um, harmonize the whole Eightfold Path. So the philosophical systems of Buddhism we just mentioned, as well as all the Buddhist teachings, share this same goal. And by the way, if you want to contextualize within the nine yanas, then they all have the base, path, and fruition. All the fruition of every yana is going to be Dzogchen. Now, the ground or the base and the path aspects of the various yanas are going to be different. You have different approaches to that fruition. But in Dzogchen, it's called taking the fruit as the path because we recognize our own Buddha nature. And that's why we have a little aha moment. That's why it feels like more presence is opening up for us, more spaciousness, even though we retract back into conditioned cycles. Um, it's very apparent if we do an honest inquiry that uh, spaciousness and freedom is opening up there. There's a presence that's opening up for us. And that's because this is your actual enlightened nature. It's just a little clouded at times, or maybe a lot clouded at times, with that egoic consciousness, with clinging and grasping to various sense interactions. Yeah, so we get kind of pulled out of our own spaciousness or contracted away from it into a cocoon of constructs. So, beginning to familiarize with the nature of mind, with the view, um, this starts to self harmonize everything else, right? So, the whole Eightfold Path, but also the elements, the aggregates, etc., etc. So, all the same goal, all the same fruit. And in Dzogchen, the base, path, and fruit are all going to be the view. You take the view as the basis is your recognition of the view. Your path is abiding in the view, allowing for self-liberation, and the fruit is the fruit. So, but the Aro Yeshe teachings, just like the Dzogchen teachings in general, are the most direct and powerful. It's very important to remember that Dzogchen is meditation. Study alone will not result in realization. Dzogchen must be practiced, and Dzogchen practice always includes the foundation practices. Yeah, for some of those that are advocating for kind of radical Dzogchen separated from the previous yanas, I don't know if you can pull it off. I know there are some modern teachers that are giving it a try, trying to strip it down completely, but says here, foundation practices pretty much included. So when we cultivate bodhicitta, awareness of impermanence, devotion, and appreciation for who we are and what we have, our minds become broad, stable, and strong. We will not hold extreme views. Then it becomes very easy to identify and abide in the natural state. As we continue to practice Dzogchen in this way, both the relative and absolute aspects of our view become increasingly wide and deep until they are as vast and inclusive as space. Although in the Aro teaching, different practices are laid out to accommodate the abilities and experiences of different people, no one forces us to practice in a particular way. We should choose the practices that best suit us. The most important consideration is what promotes realization. Yeah, and I myself would encourage you all to prioritize your realization over little dramas in your mind and distractions. Oftentimes we just get caught up on the silliest things, and then there's no going back. Even though we feel regret and shame about how we're thinking and what we've done, we're subscribed to it. We're all in. That's the hill that we're going to die on. Unless you can be radical about that and say, you know what, I screwed up. Yeah. A kind of confession, if not just to yourself. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. This is very important. Be with your natural. You're going to have natural kind of regret about things. Lingering, maybe, I don't know, heaviness, whether we call it shame, regret, guilt, whatever, varying degrees of that. You're going to have that naturally. Feel that. Be with that. It's a very important energy to be with. But don't extend it. Don't write a story about it. Yeah, you might have done something that wasn't in harmony, but that in no way means that you are branded, especially if you can release. And it may feel a little bit irresponsible at first. Kind of like be like, yep, that just happened. And I'm not going to feel bad about it. You do feel bad about it. I mean, you already did feel bad about it, but you're kind of refusing to extend that. No extension in that bad feeling. And that's what lets you refresh, start again. And if somebody confronts you and say, hey, what about that bad thing you did? You could say, yes, I know. I'm sorry. I did that. And what else do they want from you? If somebody wants you then to feel bad, I mean, that's on their end. Okay. You've already felt your guilt. You've already said, I'm sorry. That's all you can really do. Okay. I don't know why I just went off on that tangent, but it happened. So we should select the practices that enable us to swiftly and efficiently reduce and eventually eliminate all habitual patterns, all grasping and clinging. It is also important to remember that no matter what practices we do, we should not exert too much forceful effort. Dzogchen is practiced on the natural state, and the natural state is gentle and relaxing, as well as joyful. Yeah, and I've said this before. I really admire people doing like the study groups and the Dharma talks after our two sessions, or before even, or throughout the day. But I don't know about that. I honestly would encourage you to take it real easy. You can oversaturate yourself. There's a reason why we have two sessions. That is the perfect amount of Dzogchen reminding that you need. If you take it beyond kind of 2 hours a day of Dzogchen, I feel like that, unless you're really sure that it's natural, because sometimes we just jump in and study and read, and it's really interesting and fascinating. But I'm telling you, it's very, very easy to burn out in this game and oversaturate yourself. So, unless you're very exceptional, there are people who can manage to just really immerse and stay immersed. I mean, that's what meditation practitioners do in the caves. That's what they do on the 3-year retreats when they take all those sadhanas with them. That's what they do on the wandering retreats, essentially. That's what they do in the meditation box in the monasteries. So you're not alone if you do feel like immersing into the Dharma. I'm just saying be very careful of oversaturation. I've noticed this happen, and it's sad when people they show up to every session, then they start going to after the sessions, having all these talks and really sending all these emails, and then all of a sudden gone. They're gone, and it's kind of like, didn't we just connect? Aren't we humans? Don't we love each other? So I don't know. Consistency is really important when it comes down to friendships. I'm not saying you have to stick around all the time or anything like that, but this whole kind of ghosting out, I feel like it's part of immaturity.